In the United States, we've learned an important lesson. For a company's emergency and crisis management plans to work effectively, they need to be coordinated with local community officials, including the local government. For companies with many facilities, that can be complicated. But even if your company is small or only local, sharing your crisis management plans with community officials is important. So is learning theirs. Why? In the United States, 40% of all fixed assets are held in the private sector. The private sector also employs 130 million Americans. That's 80% of the labor force. In other words, the private sector is central to crisis management planning here. The U.S. private sector is stepping up to take on a broader crisis management responsibility as well. Here are some examples. Home Depot. That's more than 2,300 stores, and this home improvement retailer is partnering with the Federal Emergency Management Agency to offer preparedness workshops, supply checklists, and guides for citizens and communities to prepare for extreme weather. Walmart. That's 1.6 million employees and 1,600 stores. They're providing their employees and the public with tips on preparedness and disaster preparations. Bank of the West, eBay, General Motors, these companies fund disaster relief and recovery efforts as part of their crisis management programs. They help support communities across the country, along with other donors, underwriting disaster recovery programs. These are just a couple examples of how businesses are working with government in crisis management and disaster preparedness. Our experience also suggests much more needs to be done. For one thing, businesses can use their media platforms to educate the public on the importance of crisis management planning. For example, having getaway kits ready in hurricane season. Companies can encourage their employees to participate in community programs such as the Federal Emergency Management Agency's emergency response teams. These volunteer teams and their members help in disaster preparedness and when emergencies strike. And businesses can lend their expertise to design communications programs to make the public aware of what to do in an emergency or when a disaster occurs. This expertise is vital in publicizing what people need to know. In sum, in the U.S., enhancing cooperation between government and business at all levels in crisis management is a critical lesson learned. Well, how about companies? What are the lessons learned for them? Let's emphasize that I am cautious about generalizing regarding how American companies handle crisis management. A survey 2 years ago suggested that only about half of U.S. businesses have a formal crisis management plan. And even companies that have a plan, you have to ask the question, how many regularly review it and update them? It's hard to know. That said, both the data on crisis management and the analysis of plans that we've seen that have failed and ones that have worked have produced insights that are widely shared today. So what are they? What have we learned? First, a crisis management plan must cover all of a company's core capabilities, and it needs to include the resources to cover losses because of a crisis. Why? According to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, 40% of businesses that have crises occur never recover. So a plan can't stop a crisis, but it can help you if it occurs. Crisis communications at all levels in a company is absolutely crucial. Managers can't evaluate whether their plan is working unless they get feedback. The plan needs to include a process to regularly collect and analyze information to make sure it's being followed. To that end, it also needs to put in place channels of communication to ensure managers know what's happening in real time. It must give them situational awareness. To aid their decision-making, situational awareness means they need to be mindful of their surroundings to determine if critical events are occurring and whether the plan applies or not. A plan must be transparent. It has to be understood not only by people implementing it, but also by everyone affected, employees, customers, stakeholders. The plan needs to facilitate communication with the outside world as well as within the company. Finally, practice is vital. It's crucial to ensure the plan works. A tabletop exercise that simulates the plan is a good way to do it. It helps employees understand their role in an emergency, and it's also critical in evaluating best practices, whether you're doing it right.